The Odyssey has long existed in public imagination as one of the most enduring adventure stories ever told, and its transition into a modern movie project immediately sparked conversation because of the scale, ambition, and thematic depth associated with the tale. The movie draws from a timeless foundation built on myth, endurance, and the human desire to return home, while shaping these ideas into a cinematic experience designed for contemporary audiences. From the earliest discussion around the film, it was clear that the intention was not simply to retell a familiar legend, but to reinterpret it in a way that feels emotionally grounded, visually immersive, and relevant to modern storytelling sensibilities. At its core, the movie centers on Odysseus, a warrior defined as much by intelligence and resilience as by physical strength. Rather than portraying him as an invincible hero, the film emphasizes his vulnerability, fatigue, and emotional conflict after years of war. This approach allows the audience to connect with him as a man struggling against fate, temptation, and his own flaws. His journey becomes less about conquering monsters and more about surviving loss, resisting despair, and holding on to identity while being pushed to the edge of humanity. The story unfolds as a long and dangerous voyage across hostile seas, where each stop introduces a new challenge that tests Odysseus in a different way. Some threats are physical, such as monstrous beings and deadly environments, while others are psychological, involving manipulation, temptation, and moral compromise. The film treats these encounters not as disconnected episodes, but as parts of a continuous emotional descent and rebirth. Every trial leaves a mark, shaping Odysseus into someone wiser, but also more burdened by experience. Parallel to Odysseus's journey is the story of home, where time moves differently yet painfully slow. His wife is portrayed not just as someone waiting, but as a figure of strength, patience, and quiet resistance. The movie gives weight to her endurance, showing that survival can take many forms. Her intelligence and emotional resilience mirror Odysseus's own, reinforcing the idea that heroism is not limited to the battlefield or the open sea. The tension between hope and resignation defines her storyline, adding emotional gravity to the larger narrative. The supporting characters encountered throughout the journey play a crucial role in shaping the film's tone. Allies offer brief moments of warmth and camaraderie, while antagonistic forces embody chaos, temptation, and the cruelty of fate. Gods and supernatural beings are presented not simply as villains or helpers, but as unpredictable powers whose motivations are often unclear. This ambiguity strengthens the film's themes, suggesting that the universe is indifferent, and survival depends on adaptability rather than divine favor. Visually, the movie leans heavily into contrast. Calm, almost dreamlike moments of beauty are followed by brutal, chaotic sequences that emphasize how quickly safety can vanish. The ocean itself becomes a character, sometimes peaceful and sometimes violently unforgiving. This shifting environment reinforces the idea that Odysseus is constantly at the mercy of forces beyond his control. The film avoids glamorizing the journey, instead presenting travel as exhausting, dangerous, and mentally draining. The cast is often discussed for how well it balances intensity with subtlety. Performances focus on restraint rather than exaggerated heroics, allowing silence, facial expressions, and body language to convey inner conflict. Odysseus's transformation across the film is gradual, believable, and deeply human. His confidence erodes, his patience is tested, and his cleverness becomes both his greatest strength and his greatest burden. By the later stages of the story, he is no longer driven by glory, but by the simple need to return home alive. The movie's approach to myth is grounded rather than fantastical. While supernatural elements remain central, they are framed through a lens of realism and emotional consequence. Monsters are terrifying not just because of their appearance, but because of what they represent: loss of control, temptation, and the thin line between survival and surrender. This grounded approach makes the story accessible even to viewers unfamiliar with the original myth, allowing the emotional stakes to remain clear and compelling. Discussion around the movie has also focused on its pacing. Rather than rushing through iconic moments, the film allows scenes to breathe, giving weight to decision-making and consequence. This slower, more deliberate rhythm mirrors the exhaustion of a long journey and encourages the audience to experience the passage of time alongside the characters. The result is a narrative that feels immersive rather than episodic, with each challenge flowing naturally into the next. The trailer generated attention for its emphasis on atmosphere rather than exposition. Instead of explaining the plot, it focused on imagery, emotion, and tension, signaling that the film prioritizes experience over explanation. This choice reinforced the idea that the Odyssey is not just a story to be told, but a journey to be felt. The trailer's tone suggested a balance between epic scale and intimate character study, setting expectations for a film that respects its source material while offering something new. Release discussions highlighted the film's ambition and confidence in its storytelling. Rather than positioning itself as a simple action adventure, the movie was framed as a character-driven epic with philosophical undertones. This positioning attracted audiences interested in meaningful cinema as well as those drawn to spectacle. The film's arrival was seen as an attempt to bridge the gap between classic myth and modern filmmaking, offering a story that feels both ancient and immediate. Thematically, the movie explores identity, memory, and the cost of survival. Odysseus is constantly forced to choose between easy escape and painful perseverance. Each choice strips away illusions, revealing who he truly is beneath titles and reputation. The longer the journey lasts, the more he must confront the possibility that home may no longer exist as he remembers it, and that returning may require him to face consequences rather than comfort. Another recurring theme is the tension between fate and free will. The film presents destiny as something that can be resisted but never fully escaped. Odysseus's intelligence allows him to survive situations that should destroy him, yet every victory comes with loss. This balance prevents the story from becoming either hopeless or triumphant, instead existing in a morally complex space, where survival is earned rather than granted. The final stretch of the movie brings the emotional and narrative threads together, focusing on transformation rather than spectacle. The return home is not portrayed as a simple reunion, but as a test of identity and truth. Years of absence have changed everyone involved, and recognition becomes as dangerous as confrontation. The film treats this resolution with restraint, allowing tension and emotion to carry the weight instead of relying on exaggerated action. Audience reaction has centered on how faithfully the movie captures the spirit of endurance and longing that defines the Odyssey. Viewers have praised its emotional depth, visual storytelling, and commitment to character over excess. Some discussions point to its deliberate pace as a strength, while others view it as a bold choice in an era dominated by fast-moving narratives. Regardless of perspective, the film has sparked meaningful conversation about how ancient stories can still resonate when told with sincerity. Over time, the movie is expected to be viewed not just as an adaptation, but as a reflection on human perseverance. Its power lies in reminding audiences that the greatest journeys are not measured by distance, but by transformation. Through hardship, loss, and resilience, the Odyssey movie presents a story where survival itself becomes an act of defiance against chaos, making it a compelling and emotionally resonant cinematic experience that honors its legendary roots while standing confidently on its own.